My parents tried to strip me of all I earned just to hand it to their precious firstborn. But what I did next in court turned their world upside down. I'm Ryan, 38 years old, and I grew up in a house where the hierarchy was crystal clear. My older brother Derek, 41, was the golden child, the crown prince, the heir to everything. My parents never bothered hiding this uncomfortable truth. They'd openly discuss how Derek would inherit the family home in suburban Denver, the savings accounts, all of it, right in front of me like I was invisible furniture. Their reasoning? He came out first. That's literally it. I was always the spare kid, the one expected to smile and nod while Derek got the royal treatment. For years, I watched this play out like some twisted reality show. Derek got the master bedroom when we hit our teens, the brand new Ford Mustang for his 16th birthday, and college tuition paid in full at Colorado State. Meanwhile, I got student loan paperwork and a monthly bus pass to community college. My best friend Jake witnessed this circus throughout our childhood in Lakewood. Dude, your parents treat Derek like he's the second coming, and you're just some random kid they're babysitting, he'd tell me during sleepovers. He wasn't exaggerating. The pattern followed us into adulthood like a shadow. When Derek married his wife Brittany, a woman who could complain about free money, my parents handed them $30,000 for a house down payment. 4 years later, when I asked for similar help, I got a lecture about personal responsibility and pulling myself up by my bootstraps. Derek's career path was paved with golden connections. After graduation, Dad called in favors to land him a management position at his buddy's construction firm in Aurora. Zero experience required, naturally. Meanwhile, I started at the bottom of an IT company in downtown Denver, clawing my way up through certifications and 60-hour weeks. Dad didn't even know what I did for work until I'd been doing it for 3 years. Fast forward to last year. After 15 years of grinding, I finally saved enough to buy my own place, a beautiful 3-bedroom ranch in Highlands Ranch. The house needed work, but I spent 6 months transforming it into my dream home. New granite kitchen, refinished oak floors, converted the garage into a home gym. Every dollar came from my own sweat and sacrifice. This place was 100% mine. My name on the deed, my rules, my sanctuary. No family strings attached. Or so I thought. 2 months after moving in, my parents invited themselves over for dinner. Dad inspected everything like he was conducting a building code inspection, making snide comments about my amateur renovations. Mom kept asking if I felt lonely rattling around in such a big house all by myself. After we finished eating my carefully prepared pot roast, they sat me down with those serious expressions I remembered from childhood lectures. Son, Dad said, leaning forward with his authority voice, your mother and I have been discussing your house situation. I stared at him, confused. What situation? We think it makes more sense for Derek to take over this property, Dad continued, like he was discussing the weather. I blinked hard, certain I'd misheard. Excuse me? Mom jumped in with her practiced, concerned voice. We're just thinking about proper family asset management, sweetheart. Derek has children who need the space. You're single. It's the practical solution. What the hell are you talking about? The words came out sharper than intended. This is my house. I bought it with my money. There's no situation to discuss here. Dad leaned forward, using that intimidation pose that worked when I was 10 but felt pathetic now. We're not trying to take anything from you, son. This is about family unity. Derek would naturally let you stay here until you found a smaller place that better suits your needs. Before I could respond, Derek strolled in from the kitchen where he'd apparently been eavesdropping the entire time. He wore that smug expression he'd perfected since childhood, the look of someone who'd never been told no. Don't take it personally, bro, he said with fake casualness. It's just about what makes sense for the family unit. You don't really need all this space anyway. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood I'd spent weeks refinishing. This is my home. I'm not signing anything over to you or anyone else. End of discussion. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. My parents exchanged that look they always shared when I dared to step out of line, surprise mixed with disappointment that their second son had developed a backbone. They left shortly after, the evening clearly ruined for them. I spent that night pacing my house, half convinced I'd hallucinated the entire conversation. What kind of family asks you to give up your house? What kind of brother thinks that's a reasonable request? The next morning I called Jake, the only person who truly understood my family dynamics after witnessing them firsthand for decades. Dude, I think my family's completely lost their minds, I told him, recounting the previous night's surreal conversation. Honestly, I'm not even surprised, Jake said. Derek's always acted like he's entitled to everything you have. Remember when he tried to take your first car? I did remember. I'd saved for 2 years working at King Soopers to buy a used Honda Civic when I was 18. Derek had totaled his second car, the one my parents bought him after he destroyed the first, and suddenly decided he needed mine for his important job. My parents had actually backed him up. I only kept the car by threatening to drop out of college and move to California. Yeah, but this is different, I said. This is my house. How could they possibly think I'd just hand it over? Because you've never really stood up to them before, Jake pointed out brutally. Not permanently. You've complained, you've argued, but you always showed up for holidays. You always played nice. They think you'll fold this time too. He was right. I'd spent decades swallowing my resentment for the sake of family peace. This time would be different. After that visit, things escalated faster than a Colorado wildfire. Mom started her guilt trip text campaign immediately. Families should support each other, and Derek's children deserve a stable home, and why are you being so selfish? Dad called with speeches about responsibility to the family name and thinking beyond myself. My Aunt Patricia, Mom's sister and equally entitled, joined the harassment brigade. Your cousin gave his starter home to his older brother when he got married. That's what family does, she lectured during one particularly annoying phone call. I reminded her that her son had been gifted a house by his grandfather, so the situations weren't exactly comparable. She hung up on me. Derek was absolutely the worst. He started showing up unannounced with Brittany, who was basically the human equivalent of a "let me speak to your manager" haircut. They'd walk through my house like prospective buyers, discussing what they'd change once it became theirs. This wall should definitely come down, Brittany would say, tapping on my living room wall with her fake nails. We need an open concept for entertaining guests. The first few times I tried staying civil, reminding them this was my house and I wasn't selling or transferring anything. They'd smile and nod like I was a toddler having a tantrum. We understand you're attached to the place, Brittany would say in her most condescending tone. Change is always hard for people. Their kids, 8-year-old Austin and 10-year-old Chloe, both spoiled beyond repair, would run wild through my house. They'd jump on my leather furniture, track mud across my new floors, and mess with my electronics while Derek and Brittany did nothing to stop them. Kids will be kids, Derek would shrug whenever I pointed out their destructive behavior, as if property damage was some unavoidable force of nature. Then one Saturday I came home from the gym to find Derek's black Escalade parked in my driveway and his family inside my house. They'd used the spare key I'd stupidly hidden under a fake rock for emergencies. We were just in the neighborhood, Derek said casually while his kids were literally drawing on my dining room wall with permanent markers they'd found somewhere. Get your kids and get out, I said, my voice deadly calm. Brittany gave me her signature look of practiced outrage. They're just playing. Don't be so uptight about everything. I confiscated my key and changed every lock that afternoon. Jake came over to help, shaking his head in disbelief. Dude, this is next level entitlement, he said as we installed new deadbolts. You need to document everything that's happening. Taking his advice, I installed security cameras covering every entry point and started keeping detailed records of every interaction, every text, every uninvited visit. But the worst incident was yet to come. Besides my house, my pride and joy was my 1969 Dodge Dart Swinger, a classic muscle car in metallic green with the original 340 V8 engine. I'd spent 2 years restoring it, countless weekends and late nights in my garage, thousands of dollars in parts. I'd done most of the work myself, from rebuilding the carburetor to reupholstering the black leather interior. That car represented thousands of hours of my life and passion. I was in the kitchen making lunch when I heard a strange scraping sound from the driveway. I looked out the window and saw 10-year-old Austin deliberately dragging a rock along the passenger side of my Dart, carving a deep scratch from the headlight to the tail light. I ran outside, my blood pressure spiking. What the hell are you doing? The kid looked at me with this smug little smile, the same expression his father always wore. It's just a stupid old car, he said, still holding the rock like a weapon. I lost it. I grabbed the rock from his hand and hurled it across the yard, then shoved him hard enough that he fell on his rear end, looking shocked for the first time in his spoiled life. Get the hell away from my car. I yelled through clenched teeth. Austin started wailing like I'd broken his arm. Derek and Brittany came running out, followed by my parents who had apparently been inside the whole time plotting my downfall. What is wrong with you? Brittany screamed, scooping up Austin like he was the victim. He's just a child. Your child just caused $3,000 in damage to my car, I said, pointing to the deep gouge in the paint and metal. Derek stepped up, puffing out his chest. It's just a car, Ryan. He didn't mean anything by it. Are you blind? He did it deliberately. Dad put his hand on my shoulder with that patronizing gesture he'd always used. Son, you need to calm down. Kids make mistakes. You can't put your possessions above family. I shrugged his hand off violently. That's exactly the problem with this family. Your golden child and his spawn can destroy whatever they want, and I'm supposed to just smile and take it. He's 10 years old, Mom said, appalled. You pushed a child to the ground. I pushed a vandal who was destroying my property, I corrected her. And where were you all when he was doing it? Sitting inside planning how to steal my house. Aunt Patricia, who had apparently also been invited to this ambush, chimed in from the porch. This is exactly why you're not ready for adult responsibilities. You can't even control your temper around children. The family closed ranks against me. All of them glaring like I was the criminal. Not one person, not a single one, acknowledged what Austin had done or offered to pay for repairs. Instead, they spent the next hour lecturing me about my anger issues and how materialistic I'd become. After they finally left, I stood in the driveway running my fingers along the scratch in my dart. 2 years of work damaged in seconds by a kid who knew exactly what he was doing. And somehow I was the villain. But I wasn't going to let it slide this time. The next morning I called Derek directly. I want $3,500 for the damage to my car. Professional restoration will cost at least that much. Derek actually laughed. You're kidding, right? It's a scratch. Buff it out with some polish. This isn't a negotiation. Either you pay for the damage your kid caused, or I'm filing a police report for vandalism and an insurance claim naming Austin as the perpetrator. He's a minor, you idiot. Nothing will happen to him. Actually, as his parent, you're legally responsible for damage he causes. And I have security footage of him doing it deliberately. There was a long pause. I'll give you $500. That's more than generous. $3,500 or I file the report today. Your call. He hung up on me. 3 hours later, I filed a police report for vandalism and submitted a claim with my insurance company, explicitly naming Austin and documenting that Derek and Brittany had refused to cover the damages. But this was just the beginning. Over the next few months, the incidents around my house became more frequent and destructive. My mailbox was smashed with a baseball bat. My garden was trampled. Someone egged my front door twice. My security cameras were mysteriously turned away from their proper angles. I filed police reports each time, building a paper trail, but the system moved slowly. After my third visit, one officer took me aside. Look, man, I understand what's happening here. Family disputes are brutal, but we've got limited resources and vandalized mailboxes aren't exactly top priority. So I'm just supposed to let them destroy my property? He gave me a knowing look. Document everything. Get better cameras they can't tamper with. And maybe consider civil options, restraining orders, lawsuits. Hit them where it really hurts. It was solid advice. I upgraded to high-mounted cameras with battery backups and installed a steel mailbox embedded in concrete. I added motion sensors that would alert my phone if anyone stepped foot on my property. But I was about to discover something that would change everything. 2 weeks later, I got a strange call from my bank. The mortgage department wanted to verify information about a recent application that included my property as collateral. I haven't applied for anything, I told the woman on the phone. We have a refinance application with your property listed as secondary collateral, she said. My stomach dropped. That's impossible. I haven't refinanced anything. The application was submitted by Thomas and Linda Mitchell. My parents. They don't own my house. I do. That's exactly what our verification process flagged, she said. The documentation submitted doesn't match our records for your property. After I hung up, I called Jake, who rushed over with his cousin Danny from the county records office. What Danny had found would blow this case wide open. The family estate my parents kept talking about preserving was mortgaged to the hilt, not just once but 3 times over the past decade. Each refinance coincided with cash injections into Derek's failed business ventures. Derek's construction company had folded 2 years ago. His sports bar had closed within 8 months. Each failure had been covered up by my parents bleeding their home equity dry. And now they were 6 months behind on payments. The bank had started foreclosure proceedings. They weren't after my house because of family tradition. They needed my property to save themselves from financial ruin. Armed with this explosive information, I contacted Rebecca Martinez, a lawyer specializing in real estate fraud. She met me at her downtown Denver office, taking her time reviewing my 3-inch binder of evidence. Photos, texts, emails, property records, loan documents, police reports. This is actually pretty straightforward, she told me after reviewing everything. They've attempted loan fraud, identity theft, and document forgery. We have multiple options here. What do you recommend? She leaned back in her chair. The nuclear option would be pressing criminal charges. They could face serious jail time for the forgery and fraud attempts. The civil route would be restraining orders followed by a lawsuit for damages and attempted property theft. I nodded, thinking it through. And if I wanted to keep this somewhat contained? You could use this as leverage, threaten legal action unless they meet certain conditions like leaving you and your property alone permanently. As angry as I was, the idea of my parents going to jail didn't sit well with me. Not because they didn't deserve it, but because it would create a family explosion lasting years. I wanted this over, not prolonged. Let's prepare for all options, I told her. Draw up paperwork for both criminal charges and civil suits, but hold off on filing. I want to try one more approach first. The next time Derek showed up unannounced, my phone alerted me before he reached the front door. I opened it before he could try the handle. Trespassing again, Derek. Bold move considering I already have a stack of police reports with your name on them. He tried to push past me. We need to talk, Ryan. I blocked the doorway. No, we don't. Everything goes through my lawyer now. Lawyer? Don't be ridiculous. This is family business. Family? I laughed. You tried to steal my house and commit identity fraud. The security camera is recording this conversation, by the way. For the first time, I saw real fear flash across his face. He retreated to his Escalade without another word. The next day, Rebecca sent formal cease and desist letters to my parents, Derek, Brittany, and Aunt Patricia. The letters detailed our evidence and warned that any further contact or trespassing would result in immediate legal action. The response was swift and predictable. Mom called in tears, claiming they'd never meant any harm. Dad sent an email full of bluster about me overreacting. Derek didn't contact me directly, but I heard through cousins that he was telling people I'd lost my mind. None of them denied the fraud attempt. Not one. 2 days later, I received a group text from Mom. Family meeting Sunday, 2 p.m. Attendance is mandatory. I spent the next 4 days organizing evidence with Rebecca. We compiled everything into a professional binder with dividers, property documents, harassment timeline, financial fraud, vandalism records. Every text, email, and photo neatly arranged and time-stamped. Sunday came. I showed up with Jake waiting in his car down the street as backup. The whole family was there. My parents, Derek and Brittany, their kids, Aunt Patricia, and several cousins clearly brought as reinforcements. Dad started with his usual patriarchal speech about family unity and respect. Mom followed with tearful comments about me tearing the family apart with my selfishness. I let them finish. Then I placed my thick binder on the coffee table. I know about the mortgages, I said calmly. I know about the loan fraud attempt using my property. I know about the foreclosure proceedings. I know everything. The room went silent. Derek's face drained of color. Mom stopped mid-sob. I got a call from the bank, I continued. They're very interested in those falsified loan applications with my property listed as collateral. The nuclear option was about to detonate. Dad tried to regain control of the narrative. This is all a misunderstanding, son. 3 mortgages to fund Derek's failed businesses isn't a misunderstanding, I cut him off. Forging documents to secure loans using my house isn't a misunderstanding. It's fraud. Derek stood up, pointing at me. You ungrateful little. Sit down, I said without raising my voice. I'm not finished. I've filed police reports for vandalism. I've documented every trespass, every threat, every intrusion. I have a paper trail a mile long, and I'm prepared to press charges on all of it. The doorbell rang, interrupting my speech. Dad looked relieved at the distraction until Uncle Frank walked in. Dad's brother who'd kept his distance from family drama for years. He looked grim. Sorry I'm late, he said, then looked directly at Derek. I got your message about needing more money, but I thought it would be better to discuss it here with everyone present. Derek's eyes widened. Uncle Frank, this isn't the right time. Uncle Frank continued, I think it's exactly the right time. I've loaned you $85,000 over the past 4 years. Money you swore was for legitimate business investments. Money you promised to repay with interest. Now I discover you've been running the same con on half a dozen other family members. The room erupted. My parents tried talking over Uncle Frank, but he raised his voice. I've been quiet too long about this financial shell game. Your golden boy here has been running a one-man Ponzi scheme through this family for years. I kept quiet because Tom begged me to, said it would destroy the family if it came out. But enough is enough. He turned to me. I should have warned you years ago about what was really happening here. Derek was sputtering, trying to regain control. Uncle Frank is exaggerating everything. I've had some temporary cash flow issues, that's all. You've had cash flow issues for a decade, Uncle Frank interrupted. You've never repaid a dime to anyone in this family. Your businesses fail because you siphon all the investment money into your personal accounts. My mother was ghost white now, looking between Derek and Uncle Frank like she was watching a tennis match she couldn't follow. I turned back to my parents. I have two options for all of you. Option 1. I file formal charges for loan fraud, identity theft, attempted property theft, criminal vandalism, and harassment. The bank freezes all accounts while they investigate. The house goes into immediate foreclosure. Derek and Dad likely face criminal charges and jail time. Aunt Patricia gasped. Brittany started crying. Option 2, I continued, you all leave me alone completely. No calls, no visits, no texts, no more family tradition lectures, no more demands. My house remains mine, and you all stay away from it and from me forever. You can't just cut off your family, Mom said, but her voice had lost its manipulative edge. Watch me, I replied. I'll give you until tomorrow morning to decide. If I don't hear that you've chosen option 2, I'll assume you want option 1. I stood up to leave. Derek blocked my path one last time. You think you're so smart? He hissed. You've always been jealous of what I accomplished. I laughed in his face. Jealous of what? Your failed businesses? Your mountain of debt? Your inability to support your family without Mommy and Daddy bailing you out constantly? Move. As I reached the door, Dad called out desperately, Son, please? We can work this out as a family. I turned back. You had years to work this out. You chose Derek every single time. Now I'm choosing myself. Uncle Frank followed me out. I'm filing my own claim against Derek, he said quietly. I've got canceled checks, promissory notes, everything documented. Should have done it years ago. Why didn't you? I asked. Family loyalty, he said with a bitter laugh. Stupidest reason in the world to let someone rob you blind. The next morning I received a text from Mom. We choose option 2. But I chose option 1 anyway. I didn't respond to the text. Instead, I contacted Rebecca and had her file everything. Documentation about the attempted fraud with the bank, civil claims for damages against Derek and Brittany, and requests for restraining orders against the immediate family. Are you sure you want to go through with all of this? Rebecca asked. They've agreed to your terms. They've agreed to things before, I told her. I'm not taking any chances this time. File everything. After that, things went quiet for months. The legal system moves at its own pace, but eventually justice caught up with them. Derek and Brittany were ordered to pay $3,500 plus legal fees for the car damage. Uncle Frank won his case for $85,000 plus interest. My parents were formally charged with attempted loan fraud and received probation plus hefty fines. Their reputations, which they'd always obsessed over, were completely destroyed. 6 months later, I ran into Mom at the grocery store. She looked 10 years older, wearing clothes I didn't recognize, cheaper, worn. She started to approach me, then stopped, remembering the restraining order. Son, we need help, she called across the aisle. We have nowhere to go. We're family. No, I said calmly. We're not. My last interaction with Derek came 9 months later when he showed up at my office building, somehow having discovered where I worked. Security called to warn me that someone claiming to be my brother was in the lobby causing a scene. I went down to find Derek looking nothing like his former arrogant self. The confident stance had given way to a defeated slouch. 5 minutes, he said when he saw me. Just give me 5 minutes to explain. I pointed to the security guard. The restraining order says 500 feet. This is about 50. You want to add violation charges to your record. Mom and Dad are losing everything, he said, his voice breaking. They'll be on the streets soon. So, Jesus, Ryan, have a heart. They're our parents. I stared at him. Funny how family only matters when you need something. You didn't care about family when your kid was vandalizing my car, or when you were trying to steal my house, or when you were forging documents with my name on them. As security escorted him out, he shouted back, "You'll regret this. Family is all you have in the end." I went back to my office and thought about what he'd said. Family is all you have in the end. Maybe that was true for some people, but not for me. The next few months were the most peaceful of my adult life. I got promoted to senior architect with a 20% salary increase. I finished all my house renovations exactly how I'd envisioned them. I started dating someone who respected boundaries and treated me as an equal. On weekends, I take the Dart out for drives through the Colorado mountains, the engine purring like a contented beast. Sometimes Jake and Uncle Frank come along. That's the thing about family, it's never really about blood. It's about respect, loyalty, and genuine care. The people who tried to steal what was mine weren't family. They were thieves wearing familiar faces. My house, my car, my life, I earned every bit of it through 15 years of 60-hour weeks and sacrifice. No one gets to take that from me. Not anymore. And I've never looked back.